God knows how to bring promises to pass, but you have to stay open to how it's going to happen.
Don't ever say, God, don't you love me? You always say, God, I know you love me. I don't care what's happening in my life. I know that you love me.
I want you to go out and find somebody to mentor during this crisis, or go sit at the feet of somebody that needs to mentor you, and start maximizing your time with people.
Listen to me closely. But we've been programmed to fail. Did you hear what I just said? We were born with, we're made in the likeness and image of God. It doesn't get any better than that. And been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth, including the adversities that we face.
My mother said, Leslie, if you run around with 9 broke people, I guarantee you'll be cook number 2. Well, come to find out, Mama was right. She only had a 3rd grade education, but the studies indicate that you earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. So poverty and living a mediocre life is communicated mind to mind. And so your relationships can hold you down or they can lift you up. I teach people to practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. If you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group.
Your body naturally will feel the effects of what you've created in your mind. And a lot of you guys were on the receiving end of something that happened to you, a heartbreak, a situation, disrespect, feeling vulnerable, and so it's very natural for something that you've experienced to replay in your mind over and over and over. But if you change your mind, it'll change your life.
Your perception of who you are, you've got to change it. And most of our perceptions are other people's concepts of us, and therefore we don't have self-concept, we got other concepts. What is your perception of who you are? And the second one, why do you think you exist? You got to discover that you were born for something. Some reason, there's some purpose for your life. If you don't discover that, you'll always have a job.
I'm still a work in progress. I'm flawed. I have my own issues, problems, and situations that I'm working through. But I do understand clearly that I'm much more further along than a lot of people. And so I feel like I'm putting my hand out there and hoping to relate, and hoping that you can relate to what I'm saying and what I'm speaking on.
If you're a person where all your friends come to you with their problem, that's because they see something in you. You're more balanced and stable. But you got to remember this whole saying. If you're the smartest person in your group, you need a new group. It ain't nothing bad. You just got to upgrade people in your life. You cannot be the go-to person in the group. So, just upgrade your friends. Don't worry about it. You have a gift that you solve problems all the time. People pay for in this country, they pay for expertise in this country. The moment you're an expert at something in America, you can make $1 million. All you got to do is be an expert at one thing.
I asked Dad one time, I said, Dad, how do you know that people need encouragement? Because he was encouraging everybody. I said, how do you know they need to be encouraged? He said, son, let me explain this to you. If they're breathing, I love this. If they're breathing, they need to be encouraged. That's exactly how my father lived his life. He called encouragement the oxygen of the soul.
When you're an eagle, you're meant to rise up. We don't rise up when everything's going well. We rise up regardless. You're trained to rise up on your worst day. That's who you are. In the worst of circumstances. No place for whining, complaining, being anxious, being negative. It's totally unnecessary.
All your circumstances may say you'll never fly. You don't have the training, the experience. Thoughts will tell you you'll always be grounded. No, get ready. Your wings are coming. Where you are is not permanent. God did not create you to crawl, to go through life lonely, struggling. He created you to soar, to take new ground, to go further than you thought possible. Now quit being discouraged by what you see. What you see is subject to change. You don't know what God is up to. You don't know what he's doing behind the scenes.
Eagles live on another level.
Eagles think on another level. Eagles dream on another level. Eagles function on another level. If you had somebody reject you, leave you, stop crying about it. It was just a chicken.
I now realize how true. So you don't know the truth until you obey the word. Now, God, give me strength to preach this. God, give me strength to preach this. God, you keep asking God to explain it, and he keeps telling you to trust it.
Now, the fact is, goals aren't going to achieve themselves. And even the smallest act makes you one step closer. Even the smallest step is progress. Now, listen to me, friends. Taking action daily, on a daily basis, every day, is the most important step toward your success.
I was number 3 behind Michelle Obama for a long time. Until my book sold out. Yeah. And I was a guy just 21 years ago who was 300 pounds, could barely read and write. And now I have a book just 2 spots behind Michelle Obama, just because I was afraid. But you overcome those fears, guess what happens? The whole world, you unlock this door and everything opens back up again.
Receiving is like the ocean. Well, the problem is some people go to the ocean with a teaspoon. What I suggest you do in view of the size of the ocean is trade your teaspoon for at least a bucket.
All of the great discoveries, great inventions, great deeds that have lifted man up from his animal existence have been wrought out of the actual by the perpetual thinking of and visualizing these things by their authors. These grand characters clung to their vision, nursed it until they became mighty magnets that attracted out of the universal intelligence the realization of their dreams. Whenever we make our demand upon the brain by desire, that part responds in growth. Don't let go of your desire, whether it be music, art, literature, business, or a profession. Hold on to it. No matter how dark the outlook, keep on visualizing your desire, and light and opportunity will come to enable you to make it a reality. Whatever the Creator has fitted you to do, He will give you a chance to do, if you cling to your vision and struggle as best you can for its attainment. The opportunities for boys and girls to bring out whatever the Creator has implanted in them are 10 to 1 today to what they were 100 or 50 or even 25 years ago. The great danger in our time is not lack of chance or opportunity, but of losing our vision, of letting our ambition die. Most of us, instead of treating our desires, seriously trifle with them as though they were only to be played with, as though they could never be realities. We do not believe in their divinity. We regard our heart wants, our soul yearnings, as fanciful vagaries, romances of the imagination. Yet we know that every invention, every discovery or achievement that has blessed the world began in a desire.
Release control of how it's going to happen. God is about to do unusual things, out of the ordinary, unprecedented. You're not falling behind. You're about to receive a phone call, a good break, a promotion. Your health suddenly turns around.
If your life and your surroundings is a nightmare while you're awake, those same nightmares are going to continue into your sleep, because the mind doesn't turn off because you close your eyes to go to sleep and rest. You can think yourself into a depression. Keep thinking and replaying and thinking and replaying, playing the same over.
Too often we say, oh, I'll be happy when I just get that promotion. I'll be happy when I just land that contract. I'll be happy when I just have more money. I'll be happy when I just what? You won't be any happier when you reach your goals than you are right now. It just doesn't work that way. Abraham Lincoln said it best. He said, you'll be as happy as you make up your mind to be. Right now, whether you're on your way, whether you've already gotten there, you'll be as happy as you make up your mind to be now. Right now. Being happy on the way doesn't mean you can't aim for great things. After all, look at everything Franklin accomplished in his lifetime. It means that big achievements come one small advantage at a time. It means that you've got to enjoy the journey. It means that you must enjoy and take pride in your little accomplishments. It means enjoying who you are becoming in pursuit of your eager desire every day, every single day.
If you're a believer, it's life versus even more life. Do you hear what he is saying in this text? Do you hear what he is preaching? He's saying, yo, to die is gain. What he's saying the bigger sacrifice is not death. The bigger sacrifice for where I am at right now is to keep on living.
No one can live beyond the limits of their belief. So if you want to live beyond what you're living now, you have to change your belief system. The secret to anyone rising is what happens in their belief system. Your life is what you think it should be. That's exactly what you are right now. You are what you thought you should be. And if you don't like who you are, you got to change what you think you should be. That's how leaders are born. Your leadership development is determined by, number one, your perception of who you are. Number two, by why you think you exist. And number three, your sense of significance. I am giving you my secret to life right here. You got to first change your perception of who you are. And that stands for the belief system. Secondly, you must change your perception of why you think you exist. And number three, your sense of significance. No matter where you are right now, it doesn't matter. I don't care what situation you're in now, where you're working, or what situation you're in. If you get these three things to come alive in this session, when I see you again, you'll have a story to tell me. Discover that you are important to the human race. You are important to the world. You are important to your universe. You can never fully carry out the mandate of leadership if you don't have the mentality of leadership. It's about mentality. A matter of fact, integrating attitude and aptitude and altitude produces leadership. That's a lot of ops there. First of all, your attitude got to be right. Then you must marry that to attributes. That means gifts you were born with. Then you got to marry that to aptitude. That means now you got to educate and train those gifts. That's why you read and study and go to school, for your aptitude to be increased. And then your altitude means you got to change the level of associations you are in.
Look forward to the rewards that we're going to have for the work that we've done. But we don't do them to get rewarded, just like you really shouldn't give in the offering just to get more back. You should give because you appreciate what God's done for you, and you should give because you remember what it's like to be a miserable person, and you want to help other people that are where you used to be.
Another thing I do, I schedule my exercise out for the whole week. So on Sunday nights, I go through all the online classes I'm going to take. I put them in my calendar. That way I'm not making a game day decision. Another thing that I do, I have a little reward afterwards. Another thing that I do, I lay out my clothes the night before. All of these are little steps that make it easier for me to fulfill on something that I don't want to do.
We all look for toughness. We all want it, but we look for it in a comfortable environment. You will not find toughness in a comfortable environment. I was trying to look for it everywhere. The only way you find it is to drown yourself in a position where you're just out of sorts, where you can't swim and you're drowning. You're drowning in life. But you say, you know what, man? Fuck that. I'm going to figure out how to fucking backstroke or fucking something. I'm going to figure out how to, and then you figure it out. When you say, fuck you, this sucks. I'm drowning. I'm miserable. I'm suffering. I'm broken, but I'm not going anywhere. What happens to your mind is it does this. It says, fuck, he's not leaving. So we got to expand. We got to grow. And then you start to engage parts of your mind that you never engaged before.
Destination is not determined by hope. It's not determined by wish. Destination is determined by direction. You cannot change destination. You cannot change destination. Which means you can't arrive at a 5 years from now place tomorrow. But here's what you can change today and overnight. You can change direction. And it is so fascinating what a little small change of direction will do. Let's say that you're here and you're headed this way. Then 5 years from now, you'll wind up here. But here's how we individually can arrive at a new destination. Maybe right now by discipline or lack of discipline or direction, you're headed this way. But it wouldn't take much to change direction and head this way.
When we do things for the right reason, man, God comes through with blessings that are just absolutely almost unbelievable. Why don't you have any faith? But they arrived on the other side because what God says will happen with or without you.
The eagle spreads its wings as something to behold. It was built to soar, to fly. It was built to withstand storms, so that when the storm comes and other birds run for shelter, the eagle runs into the storm and uses the storm to lift it up so that it can fly above the storm. You know you're an eagle when you ran into a storm that you thought was going to kill you, and instead of it killing you, it lifted you higher than you've ever been lifted before. It's a sure sign you're an eagle. Can you hear me tonight? What you need is another eagle with wings and dreams and visions and concepts, who's not jealous of you, who's not intimidated by you, who's not fighting you. You know that it's an eagle when they're not jealous of you. You know it's another eagle when they can pray for you and you to get to the next level. It's only the chickens that are down on the ground talking about everybody. So don't be frustrated when you see the chickens flapping up and falling down, because at this stage in your life, it's time for you to be synergistic with other eagles.
What you have at the moment, you've attracted by the person you've become. Now, sometimes it's a little tough to take, blaming yourself instead of the marketplace, taking responsibility instead of putting it off on someone else.
Responsibility, the key of it is that it wakes you up. It wakes you up to stop being so wasteful with your time and with your resources and with your energy and with your talent. And so I think that that's really the key. And so, you can either waste your time, which makes your future self less successful. And every time you do that, every time you invest a little bit in your future, you've made yourself more free in the future.
You don't have to change circumstances out there. All you've got to do is look within and see if you can change yourself to the better. And as you change, things will start to change for you.
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing.
It's good for you to go take your place in the world. Have some ambition. Have a vision. Have a goal. Have a strategy. Try to be a good person. And not because it's your duty precisely, because that's the proper way to live. We're in danger of undermining all of that. You can't just sit there.
How easy and how convenient is it for us to blame everything and everybody for the things that we have going on in our lives? Most of you dropping every excuse in the book about your childhood and the problems, dysfunction that you grew up in that's stopping you from becoming successful. Stop being a lazy person that's full of excuses, sitting around on the pity potty, coming up with every excuse in the world as to why you ain't winning.
And you don't have to fill yourself with that kind of energy. So you don't put your thoughts on what's missing. You don't put your thoughts on what always has been. You don't put your thoughts on what others want for you.
You are the reason you're not winning.
When we make more decisions based on the place that we want to go, we allow ourselves to train our brains to know that we are in charge, that we're the ones making the decision, that this is our life.
And we can create the kind of world that we want to create. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Somebody taught you that the best way to deal with pain was to isolate. So you adapted a method of ignoring stuff you couldn't fix. And I bet you've been doing it all of your life. Since you were a little girl, since you were a little boy, you have become a master at leading. It's just stressful. It's just combobulating. How are you going to win if you're not in the game? You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to have the solution. You don't have to have the way out. All you have to do is show up in your own life. God knows where you live. God knows where you are. God knows what you're going through. And when He comes walking in the door, make sure you are where you're supposed to be, even if you don't like it, even if it don't feel good, even if it makes you cry, even if it makes you hurt. Don't be a ghost in your own life.
What makes it hard is your lack of belief that it can happen for you. The fact of it is, though, it's very doable. See, but you got to change, though. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So if you're at a place in your life and you ain't happy with it, you have to change some things. But you have to make a conscientious decision that you're going to change. And it's not dependent on anybody else. It don't matter what your mama think. It don't matter what your coworkers think. It don't matter what your siblings think. It don't matter what your children think. It don't matter. They have nothing to do with it. This decision is yours and yours alone. There's 2 people born in a hospital every day. It's a person that's born in the hospital that's going to get a job, and somebody born in the hospital that's going to give them a job. You get to decide which one you're going to. Let me tell you something. You get to decide if I'm going to be rich, poor, mediocre, plentiful, happy, sad. You have a decision to make.
I'm not going to settle for mediocrity. I'm going to keep pursuing what God put in my heart. The dreams God has placed in your heart, the promises He's spoken to you are not going to come to pass without opposition, without delays, without people trying to talk you out of it. There will be plenty of opportunities to get discouraged, to lose your passion, think that it's not meant to be. But if you're going to reach your destiny, you have to have a made-up mind. If you give up after the first time, or the 5th time, or the 30th time, what that really means is you didn't want it bad enough. There should be something you're believing for that you are relentless. You are not moved by how impossible it looks. You're not discouraged by how long it's taking. You don't give up because people told you no. Your attitude is, if I have to believe my whole life, I'm not going to stop believing. You can't be passive and indifferent. You have to have a holy determination. It's more than just your will. It's a fire on the inside, a knowing that it's supposed to be yours. When everything says it's not going to happen, instead of getting discouraged, you kick in to a new gear. Normal people would give up. Normal people would settle, but you're not normal. You want it on another level.
Listen, getting successful, whatever you consider successful, if it's rich, whatever, it's not a magic trick. It's not God picks certain people He'll make rich and certain people He don't. He gives all of us as His children the power of choice. You have a say-so in that. You can decide to be rich, and with God's help, it's highly doable. But you first have to think it.
How bad do you want what God has put in your heart? Bad enough to outlast the opposition? Bad enough to overlook some insults? Bad enough to do the right thing when the wrong thing is happening? Do you want it bad enough to keep pursuing even when circumstances say it's not going to happen? Many of the difficulties we face, the delays, the times it's not fair, that's simply a test. God is seeing how bad do you want it. This is what weeds people out. If you're overcome by problems, you let circumstances push you down, people talk you out of it, you're not going to have the strength or the courage to sustain where God is taking you. You have to be like David. Don't have a weak mentality, have a warrior mentality. You have to be more determined than the opposition. If you give up every time things don't go your way, you didn't want it bad enough. You have to dig your heels in and say, I am in this for the long haul. I know what God has spoken to me. I will get well. I will accomplish my dream. I will meet the right person. You're not moved by what's not working out, by how long it's taking, or by who's not for you. You know who is for you, the Most High God. If you're going to see what you're believing for, you have to be willing to do what other people won't do. Other people may not believe when it looks impossible. Other people may settle where they are. They may get discouraged. Tell you, don't bother praying. Don't bother believing. No use getting your hopes up. You're wasting your time. You have to do like Barnabas and say, God, this looks impossible, but I know you can do the impossible. The odds are against me, but God, I know you are for me. Well, I put in 3 applications. All 3 companies turned me down. I don't think I'll ever find a job. I say this respectfully, you don't want it bad enough. Well, I dated 2 girls. Both of them told me I wasn't their type. I don't think I'll ever get married. You don't want it bad enough. There are several million other girls out there. Well, I want to get well, but the medical report says I'm not going to make it. When the odds are against you, you have to want it on a new level. How bad do you want to get out of debt? Bad enough to not buy things you can't afford? Bad enough to not try to keep up with your friends? Bad enough to honor God by tithing your income? How bad do you want that promotion? Bad enough to get to work early? Bad enough to do more than what's required? Bad enough to take that online course to sharpen your skills? I don't want to take another course. I don't want more work. I just want the promotion. You don't want it bad enough. You have to stand out in the crowd.
You have to live your life with the expectation that great things are coming your way. And that's how it works. Now, let me teach it to you. You grab your remote. You press the power button. What do you expect to happen? You expect the TV to come on. Guess what? It come on. If you want to see Sports Center channel 46, and you press 46 and OK or select, what do you expect to come on your TV? Sports Center. And guess what show up? Sports Center. They got the concept of creating a remote from the Bible. See, God is tied to all of this. You better understand what I'm trying to tell you now. The Bible says, a man is as he thinketh. God created us in his image. God thought of this world. He thought of it. So he created. So he made you just like him, that your thoughts can create things. He made you just like him. Now, you can't go make earth and heaven like he did, but you can make a better world for yourself.
Your destiny is too important to spend it with people that are not making you better. Who are you allowing to influence you? Are they challenging you, inspiring you, pushing you forward? You don't have time to waste with people that bring out the worst in you. Life is flying by. We don't get a do-over. This is it. Well, what if I hurt their feelings? What if you miss your destiny? What if they keep you from becoming who you were created to be? They may not want it bad enough. They may be okay with mediocrity, compromise, barely getting by in life. That's their choice, but that's not who you are. You have seeds of greatness. You're destined to leave your mark. You weren't created to fit in, to be average, to live with addictions, dysfunction, lack, struggle. You were created to stand out in the crowd, to be a cut above. Now do your part and distinguish yourself. Be willing to do what others won't do. Yes, it takes discipline. Yes, you have to say no to carnal desires, but the pain of discipline is less than the pain of regret. It's hard to bite your tongue, not say what you feel, but that pain is less than the pain of having someone you love walk away. It's hard to lay off the junk food, things that are not good for you. That pain is less than the pain of not being healthy. It's hard to break away from a friend that's pulling you down, but that pain is less than not reaching your dreams. One of the saddest things is to come to the end of life and wonder what I could have become. What if I wouldn't have let those people talk me out of my miracle? What if I would have broken away from those friends that were causing me to compromise? Where would I be? What if I would have treated my spouse with respect? What if I would have taken that step of faith in my career and not played it safe all the time? You don't have to wonder. You can start right now. Right. It is not too late to become who God's created you to be. The question is, do you want it bad enough? Stir your passion up. Make this decision. I am not going to live complacent, accepting mediocrity, passive. I'm going to pursue what God put in my heart. God hasn't brought you this far to leave you. Just because you don't see a way doesn't mean God doesn't have a way. Right now, He's working behind the scenes in your life. You wouldn't be alive if He didn't have something amazing in front of you. Why do you think the enemy's trying to stop you? He doesn't bother people that are not a threat. He wouldn't waste His time on you if He didn't know you were a world changer, a history maker, that you have seeds of greatness. He knows God is about to open doors bigger than you've dreamed. You're about to step into new levels of your destiny. Your attitude is going to determine your altitude. It will determine how high or how low you go. Well, Joel, I've always been kind of negative, critical, condescending. That's just who I am. No, that's who you're choosing to be. That's not who you are. That may be how you were raised. That's what you saw growing up, but that's not how you have to stay. Try being kind, friendly, good-natured. You'll not only enjoy life more, but you'll go further.
If you will change, everything will change for you. You don't have to change what's outside. All you've got to change is what's inside. To have more, you simply have to become more. And then he said, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes. And he said it'll all change for you.
The good news is all you have to do is make an attitude adjustment. It's not complicated. You can't change other people. You can't change how you were raised. A lot in life we can't control. But one thing we can all control is our attitude. Am I going to live this day negative, sour, seeing the wrong, chip on my shoulder? Or am I going to live it in faith, positive, hopeful, seeing the best, being good to people? This is a choice that we have to make every day. If you're going to have a good attitude, you have to do it on purpose, because there will be all kinds of negative things that try to creep in. Bitterness, discouragement, self-pity. If you're not proactive, if you don't choose the right attitude, then the wrong attitude will show up. When a pilot makes a small tweak, the plane can be level, but when he tilts it just a little nose high, in a half an hour, the plane will have climbed thousands of feet in the air. I wonder what would happen in your life if you would make a small tweak. Instead of going to work sour, dreading the day, feeling unappreciated, you would show up with a smile, grateful to have the job, knowing that you're not working under people, you're working under God, that He's keeping the records. That's what allows God to change things. What would happen in your marriage, your relationships, if you'd make a small attitude adjustment? Instead of being contentious, hard to get along with, you'd start being friendly, loving, respectful. Instead of saying harsh, critical words, you would start giving compliments, telling your spouse how much you love them, how blessed you are to have them in your life. Just a small adjustment, getting your attitude a little higher, watch those relationships begin to improve. Or maybe you've had bad breaks. Life hasn't treated you fair. It's easy to get sour, go around with a chip on our shoulder, focus on what's wrong. That's a nose down attitude. You're choosing the direction you're going to go. Why don't you tilt it a little nose high? Yes, it was unfair, but I know God is my vindicator. I know God is fighting my battles. God promised to pay me back double for the unfair things that have happened. You keep that up and you'll see God make up for the wrongs.
The moment you change the frequency that your tower emits, the moment you change that frequency, different things come back to you. I'm telling you this how it works. If you change your attitude, change your attitude. Somebody in here needed to hear this. Somebody, you just needed that little moment, man, to get you to thinking a little bit differently so you can get the life God got for you. God wants to show you all. He wants people that he can use in that example and say, hey, this is what I do for people. If you call on me and you believe in me, this is what I do for people. I raised my hand a long time ago. Use me. Show them how you take an old hoop. Tell them how you take a street boy. Show how you can take somebody ain't got no education. Take me. Take somebody that don't even talk that good. Take somebody who flunked out of school on his third marriage, lost everything, lived in a car for 3 years. Take me and show somebody what you can do through me. Guess what he did? He picked me up. He put me in a world I knew nothing about. God will do the same thing for you. Change your attitude, you change your altitude.
Studies show that your attitude can have a greater impact on your success than your IQ. You can be extremely talented, have incredible potential, but if you don't have the right attitude, it will keep you from rising higher. We spend all kinds of time and money making sure the outside looks good. Eating right, working out, wearing the latest fashions, and that's all fine, but too often we're not spending any time on the inside. Nice clothes won't cover up a bad attitude. A pretty face, perfect makeup won't hide being bitter on the inside. In high school, this new girl moved into town and she was very beautiful, very attractive. I was shy, never had the nerve to talk to her. But our senior year, we had a class together. The seating was assigned. It just so happened I was sitting right next to her. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. The first time I sat by her, I turned, just being friendly, and said hello, nothing more. She looked at me like I had just insulted her, like she was totally offended. She looked away and never said a word to me the whole semester. She was beautiful on the outside, but can I tell you, she was ugly on the inside. I never saw her the same way. A bad attitude makes you unattractive. It overrides what's on the outside. It's important to look good, to develop your skills, to get an education, but it's even more important to keep a good attitude. Nobody wants to be around a sour, critical, condescending person. Colossians 3 in the Message translation says, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you. Kindness, compassion, and humility. As parents, sometimes we pick out clothes for our children to wear. Our Heavenly Father has picked out something for us all to wear. Kindness, being good to people, being pleasant to be around. When you're kind, you draw people to you. When you're good-natured, friendly, opportunity will come your way. People want to do business with people that they like. When we're hiring someone, their resume tells us what they can do, what their skills are, but we always meet with them to see what their attitude is. Are they positive? Are they friendly, kind, considerate? We can find someone else with the same skills. The real question is, do they have the attitude that's going to take us higher? They may be gifted, but a negative attitude will pull the team down. Your attitude is going to determine your altitude. It will determine how high or how low you go, 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 or how low you go.
Everything you're going through is God preparing you for what you asked for. If it's a man, the lack of man is preparing you for one. I'll tell you a true story, man. I knew this girl who was a friend of mine. She was dating this married guy. I said, how can you possibly think God is going to send you the right guy? Why are you dating this married dude? How you think this works? But they went to the same restaurant, had the same booth for 2 years. They met every week. It's kind of like, remember Billy Paul's old song, Me and Mrs. Jones. We meet every day at the same cafe, 6:30, because I know she'll be there. That was a song. Well, this woman dated this man for 2 years. They went to the same restaurant. He knew the maitre d'. The maitre d' kept the table for him. Maitre d' watched this go on for 2 years. He kind of knew the guy. He wasn't cool, just gave him the right table. 2 years. Just kept on dating this dude. She asked me, she said, Steve, why are you saying God won't send me Mr. Right? I said, well, I'm going to tell you something my mother taught me. I got this little job, right? And I used to come in the house. Every time I got paid, I was saving a little bit so I could get me a new car. And I would tell my mother, who was a Sunday school teacher, I would say, hey, mama, I'm going to give me a new car. She said, yeah, I know, boy, but your old car is out in the backyard up on the blocks. I had this old car that's set up on these cylinder blocks in the driveway in the backyard. And leaves had got up under it and paper cups and oil stains where I tried fixing it. I just never could get it to working. I used to try to work on cars and stuff, but just wasn't. It was just an old car. So I get paid again. I said, Mama, I'm going to get me a new car. She said, I know, boy, but your old car outside on blocks. I don't understand this. What does she keep talking about this old car for? I'm coming in here trying to be positive because I had read this book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, and think positive. So one day, about 6 times, I came in and I said, Mama, I'm going to give me a new car, I'm telling you. She said, I know, baby, but your old car outside on the blocks. So I knew my mama was trying to teach me something because that's how they ever did me. Because that's how I do my sons. They made me a thinking man. They would never tell me nothing direct. They would just throw it out there. So I said, Mama, how come every time I get paid, I try to come in here and say something positive to you about me getting a new car, and you keep telling me about my old car out on the blocks? She said, son, you ain't got nowhere to put no new car. I called a friend of mine up. He had a tow service. I said, man, $20, I need some help. He came and towed the car away from me. I took all them cylinder blocks down, took all that trash that had gathered up on it, bundled it up, went down to Giant Tiger and bought some little asphalt cleaner and put it down and scrubbed that oil up, made that driveway look new. All of a sudden, the driveway looked new. It was a lot of space in the yard and everything. 2 weeks later, I got a new car. It wasn't new, it was used, but I bought a car. And I pulled it up in the driveway. I said, Mama, look at that, I got the car. She said, because you got somewhere to put it. She said, son, you can't ask God for something and then don't make ready to receive it. So I told that to this girl. She started crying. She said, oh my God. She said, I ain't ready to receive it. I said, no. You can ask him for it, but until you're ready to receive it, why would he give it to you? Because you ain't gonna do nothing but mess it up. She stopped seeing the married guy. So she stopped going to the restaurant. One day, the maitre d' sees her out somewhere. He approached the girl and said, I haven't seen you in a while. She said, yeah, I broke up with my friend. He said, wow, I've been waiting. She said, excuse me? He said, I've been waiting. He said, I've been watching you come here for 2 years. The most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I could not understand why you was with this guy. 1.5 years later, them two people got married. Them two people have 2 kids now. He ain't the maitre d' of the restaurant no more. He bought the restaurant. because the girl was a financial chick at a bank, so she was the missing piece for him. So instead of being the maitre d', he bought the restaurant. They now own 3 restaurants. This dude making almost $2 million a year off of 3 restaurants. They living their life. You know why? Because she took the old car down off the blocks. So ladies, I ain't saying this about you, but maybe you got an old car in your driveway up on blocks. You really want a new car, but maybe it ain't nowhere for the new car to come. Could it be? Maybe God waiting on you to get the old car towed out so you can clean up your yard and he can park a new car there. Could that be the situation with your relationship, or could it be with anything else you want? If I was you, I'd try that. I hope y'all had a good time. Thank y'all for coming. Last year, I spoke at the SALT Convention. The SALT Convention is where billionaires from around the world gather. They gather in Vegas once a year to talk about how they're going to change the world. There's a couple hundred billionaires in this world. They all come to Las Vegas once a year to SALT Convention. I was asked last year to be the keynote speaker. And I'm tripping because I'm not a billionaire. And I asked the guy who asked me to do it, I said, I'm not a billionaire. You do understand that. We said, Mr. Harvey, we know everything about you. We know your net worth and everything. I said, well, what can you all learn from me? He said, everything. He said, the reason we want to hear your story is because the majority of us that are billionaires, we inherited some money and we grew it. A couple of us inherited $1 billion, some of us inherited 300 million and we turned it into $1 billion. You come from nothing. What we want to know is how you got to where you are after coming from nothing. How did you live in a car for 3 years and wind up on more TV shows than anybody? How did you survive flunking out of school? How did you survive all of that? We want to know that, because in case something happens to us, we don't really have the information that you have, or how to come from the back to the front, or how to come from the bottom to the top. So I get asked oftentimes to speak. What I told them was really compelling, because they almost had to never hear it, because they never had to learn it. See, if you've never been in the bottom, there's some stuff you ain't never had to know. But all of you that have been in the bottom, you know it oh too well, don't you? And so when I was telling them how I made it, I was telling them about the fortitude that I developed. And then I told them about the faith that I had. And that was really startling to them. Now, a lot of them are people of faith, but a lot of people who were born with a lot of money ain't really had to have a lot of faith. You understand? You have an idea of what it feels like. You've seen some kids get put in foster care. You've seen child protective services come to somebody's house. You've seen kids come to school with less. You might have been one of the kids that went to school with less. You have struggled to give your kids a better life than the one you had. They don't hear this. But I'm going to tell you something right now. You can be successful without an education. You can be successful without coming from a rich family. You can be successful. I don't care what color you are, what faith you belong to, your sexual preference. I don't care what's wrong with you. You can be successful. I'm going to tell you flat out, you have got to tie your existence to your creator. If you don't tie who you are to God, I got news for you. You're going to forever struggle. Now, this is what I'm telling you is something you can do today. You ain't got to go to school to get this one. You ain't got to have no meeting with nobody. I'm telling you that if you solidify a relationship with God, you ain't got to ask nobody's permission. You ain't got to check in. He ain't got no line. You can go and form this relationship today, this evening, when you get home. Listen, man, you can shortcut this. I ain't got no education. I flunked out of school. I'm on my third marriage. I lost everything I ever owned twice. I had a severe stuttering problem growing up. I've been picked and teased my whole life. I've been homeless and lived in a car for 3 years. What you finna tell me? That I don't know about him. I will tell you what God can do. He can do anything. God can pick you up when you're at your lowest moment. God can take your existence and turn it around. Now listen to me, I ain't no preacher. I'm a street cat. You understand? I'm not a good Christian. I'm a Christian, you know. But I'm at best, I'm an entry-level Christian. I don't do advanced Christianity. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably like a 2. But I got news for you. That's all you got to be. Because you know why? Because there's none perfect, no, not one. There are no perfect people. Let me teach you something. And how many of you have a dog? How many of you have ever had a dog that had a flea on him? That's everybody. You ever seen a flea? One of the smallest insects. Really small. One of the smallest insects. But for his height and size, and flea has the highest vertical leap in nature for an insect. A flea can jump, has a 36-inch vertical. A flea, man, can come 36 inches off the ground. His vertical is 36. The average person can't do that. But a flea can jump 36 inches off the ground. If you capture the flea and you put him in a mayonnaise jar and you put the lid on it, the flea know one thing. I got a 36-inch vertical. So here he go. He start jumping, but he gonna hit himself on that lid because he got that lid on it. But after a while, after getting knocked down so many times, the flea makes an adjustment. So now the flea only jumps just to where he don't get knocked back down. He got 36 vertical, but since this lid is on, his environment got him now jumping nowhere near what he can. Capture some more fleas and put them in there. They got 36 verticals, but then they start jumping. They find out they keep getting knocked down. They start doing what the other fleas is doing. Next thing you know, I got a jar full of fleas in there, ain't even using a 36-inch vertical because they got a lid on the jar. Them fleas have babies. Them babies is born into the conditions of the environment. So now guess what? The flea is born with a 36-inch vertical, but because he see his mama and daddy and all his cousins and friends jumping just barely to the roof, you know what he do? He duplicates that behavior. The flea never reaches his potential. Until you take the top off of your mayonnaise jar, you're going to duplicate your surroundings. If you take an oak tree seed and you put it in a 2-foot pot, that seed will never become the oak tree that oak trees are capable of becoming because it's going to get stifled by the 2-foot pot. Now check this out. Ain't nothing wrong with the seed. The seed just fell prey to the environment. You are a seed from God. God made you in his likeness. He big, he vast. Don't you allow your environment to dictate the oak tree that you become. Because ain't nothing wrong with your seed. All of y'all got this wonderful gift that he gave you at birth. All y'all got one. You better believe that now. Don't die with this gift and don't never use it. All of y'all got this wonderful gift, but you got to use it. Take your seed, take your gift. Get away from these people that's in your life that ain't doing nothing. Get away from people in your life that's hating. Get away from your family members that ain't ever opened a business. Get away from your family members that ain't ever followed their dream. Get away from your family members ain't never been nowhere but to the family reunion. Ain't never been to a beach. Get away from them. Get away from them. I had to do it. When I told everybody I was getting into comedy, man, Oh, Lord have mercy. You can't get into comedy. You ain't even funny. How you gonna make money telling jokes? Now, in the beginning, it looked like they was right, but I never gave up. All I did was identify this gift. I worked. I wrote all of my visions down. I read them every morning and every night. I instilled them in my head. And every time I met somebody, they say, hey, man, what you trying to do? I would tell them one of my visions. Somebody would always say to me, you know, I know a guy that's selling them things right there. You ought to talk to him. I started scratching stuff off my vision board. My vision board is so vast now. If I showed you what was on it, you wouldn't even believe it. Because I dream so big. I want so big because the God I serve is big. He's not a small God. He's a really, really big God. He does really, really big stuff. And I expect him to do really, really big stuff for me. If he'd have done it for Oprah, if he'd have done it for the Obamas, whoever got, why I can't have this here? I'm going to do better with it than all of them. To me, but why you can't have that? That's how you get what you want in life now. You don't have to believe me, but here's the deal. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. If I just told you a different way to go about it, you don't need no money. I just gave you some scriptures you could try and some principles. If somebody who had come from the bottom and got to this position I'm in told me that this is the way I would try it, if I was you, I would try that. I bet you it'll work, though. Appreciate y'all. I take all my moments in life, good and bad, and I use them as teaching moments because that's exactly what they all are. If you get really smart, everything that happens to you, you should make a note of it because everything happens to you for a specific reason. There are no just haps in life. Every dark moment that you've ever had is preparing you for someplace God is taking you. That way you can start feeling a little bit better. Somebody taught this to me a long time ago. He said, Steve, in order to get to the life of your dreams, you're going to have to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. When you hear people say all the time, I don't want to do nothing that I'm not comfortable with, this person's in trouble. Because whatever your comfort zone is, if you stay in your comfort zone, that's where you'll fail. If your comfort zone is this big and you stay in your comfort zone, that's where you'll fail. In order to succeed in life, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. But I want to tell you something about yourself. All of you are equipped to live outside of your comfort zone. God has proven it to you your entire life. I'm going to show you something that he's done for you that you haven't really paid a lot of attention to. See, a lot of people are afraid to jump. A lot of people are afraid to take chances. A lot of people are afraid to put things up for risk. And you shouldn't be. Now, you can be afraid, but you should learn how to go ahead anyhow. See, because let me show you something about yourself. For all the bad days you've ever had, for every day that you thought you wasn't going to get through, for every period in your life you did not see no way you could come out on the other side, your track record for surviving them bad days is 100%. You have survived every single one of them. Your track record for surviving bad days, y'all, is 100%. And that's pretty good. You can't name one bad day you ain't got through. When you lost your mother and you felt like your whole world was crumbling, because I thought I was going to die, man. When my mama left here, boy, let me tell you, that's the worst I've ever felt in my life to date. I'm 62 years old. But the day they told me my mama was gone, when I had to pull the plug on that machine, and I had to tell that to the doctor, it was the worst period of my life. I thought I was going to die. I survived it. I want you to think about all them bad moments you had that looked like you wasn't going to make it. And then I want you to ask yourself, well, why did I make it? Well, it's real simple now. It's simply because God ain't through with you yet. Everything you're going through is God preparing you for what he has for you.